G'day folks, John from Outdoor Academy. Today I want to talk to you about the Truckies Hitch. I've done a few videos on the Truckies Hitch now in 1-minute shorts, and it's created lots of questions, lots of comments, and a little bit of confusion about the different styles of Truckies Hitch and how to tie it. So I thought I'd do a longer content video and just explain a few things about the Truckies Hitch. And towards the end of the video, I'm going to show you the fastest way I know to tie this, so stay tuned to the end. Today I'm going to use a nice orange rope in a thicker diameter, and hopefully we can all see what I'm doing here. So particularly over in the States, a lot of you guys have been shown how to put an overhand loop into your rope, reach through to grab the line, pull towards the tree that you're coming around, and that'll give you a slip knot. We feed all of our rope through that slip knot to create the Truckies Hitch. You can also feed through a second time in the same direction, and that gives you your auto locking Truckies Hitch. But it's not my preferred method, because to undo it I now have to pull all of that rope back through again. And it also adds a lot of stress to the rope here where we have to pop it through. Another method that I've seen similar to that is to do an alpine butterfly by putting 3 wraps around our hand. The first wrap goes in the middle, and then the one that is now on the end, we create some slack, put that over both pieces of rope, and create the alpine butterfly. Same deal, we feed all of our rope through, or if you just want to feed through a bight, you can do that and secure that as well. Little bit of a shortcut. The alpine butterfly is easy to undo, but to tie it and untie it is a little on the time consuming side. Another method I've seen, God forbid, is some people tie an overhand loop in their rope and use that as their pulley system for their Truckies Hitch. You're probably never going to get that undone once you've put a lot of tension on it and you've ruined your rope. I don't recommend it. The method that I was taught back in the 70s by my truck driving father was what's best described as a half sheepshank Truckies Hitch. But it is the original Truckies Hitch. It was called the Wagoners Hitch before the trucks were even invented, and I believe it was even used on sailing ships before that. So this is probably the oldest method of tying a Truckies style hitch. I did get a mention off Dave Canterbury, which got a lot of Americans interested in this style of tying a Truckies Hitch. In Australia, it's been done since the dawn of time. As far as I know, every truck driver I've ever spoken to has been shown this method of doing it. How we do it is we basically lift our working end above the standing part of our rope, reach through, and then we can just rest that on top of the hand there. We still do our overhand loop on this end, and then feed a bight through that loop, and that gives us our Truckies Hitch. I'll show you that one more time. So we reach underneath and we just make a bight in our rope. This now can just rest on top of that. Put an overhand loop in our rope, feed through a bight, and that's our Truckies Hitch. A couple of advantages is you can double and triple stack this method because you're not having to feed your rope all the way through, and you can have, we come around again, you can put another Truckies Hitch here if that was further down the line, and it'll give you multiple times the mechanical advantage. The only disadvantage on this knot, if you were using it on a truck to secure it, is that sometimes if this loop I should say if the bight falls below the loop, the knot can collapse. So what I recommend in that instance is, instead of putting a half twist in your rope, put an additional half twist to make a full twist in your rope, like a figure eight almost, then feed that through, and that's going to be much more stable and stop the loop from collapsing. Or another popular method, once you've put your half twist in, once you put your half twist in and feed your bight through, you can give yourself a longer loop and put a second half twist in and come further up. All that second twist does is it stops the bight from collapsing below your loop at the bottom there. For the purposes of a ridgeline, one twist is enough in your rope. So the fast tie method that I came up with, and it also makes it easier to teach to people who aren't familiar with the half sheep shank. If you're already familiar with putting your hand over the top to create a loop for the slip knot, all we're going to do from here is pass the rope between the loop and where we grab. Now I'm going to pull this way with my hand and this way with the working end of the rope, and that is going to give us a half sheep shank trucker's hitch. I'll show you that again. Overhand, so the thumb comes on this side of the rope and your hand on the other, so that when you turn your hand around, you've got all your fingers and thumb through the loop. But before we grab the rope here, we just want to pass the tail end of our rope between the loop and where we grab, then pull them in opposite directions. Now, one thing I've noticed is if this loop here is too small where your rope passes through and collapses down to where the twist is, it can bind up and be a little hard to undo. But you can adjust that by simply pulling through more of a bight and making it a little bit bigger. And you could end up with a bigger loop there, because if that loop is too small and can bind up against the other section of the rope, making it a little harder to untie. But it doesn't matter how much tension you put on that, once you let the tension off, the whole knot should just fall apart. There's a few different ways of tying the trucker's hitch. Let me know in the comments which one's your favourite, or if you've learnt something from today's video. I appreciate all your support and comments, and thanks for watching.